So today's video, I really want to give you a more thorough background of what my binge eating disorder looked like and all the different forms that it took and when it started and all that stuff. So I felt like I had an eating disorder ever since I was probably in second or third grade. I remember being at my grandmother's house and seeing a piece of cake on the table and stealing a slice of the cake and running upstairs to eat it. And I heard my mom coming upstairs. And so I ran to the bathroom and I hid the cake behind the toilet. And I came out and I acted like nothing had happened. And I remember my mom going in and finding the piece of cake and her telling me, she's like, "What is this?" And I'm like, I don't know. So I even remember at that young of an age sneaking and hiding food and feeling those feelings of just complete incomprehensible demoralization around my habits around food. I'm going to do another video as well about my addiction to pornography because all of these different co-addictions really kind of come into play at the same time. But for this video, I'm specifically going to talk about just my eating disorder because my eating disorder, my binge eating really took off at the same time around when I started to look at pornography, which was around third grade. So I was very young. But, I got made fun of a lot for my weight. And it got really bad when I was in junior high school. That's when I really started to become morbidly obese. I was being poked and prodded. They would poke me and go, "Woohoo!" And they would call me the Pillsbury Doughboy and things like that. And I remember it just, oh God, I just feel like people would not leave me alone. Like I just felt like I was made fun of so much. And I realized even at that time, that's when a lot of my body image issues came up because I felt like I had no autonomy over my own body because people would touch me and I would tell them not to, but they would still do it anyways. And it just fed into my eating disorder. And I grew up in an alcoholic household. So at a very young age, I learned how to take care of myself by using food. When I would say what I needed or what I wanted, I didn't know how to. So I would just stuff my feelings. And what would happen is I would have times in my life where I would just blow up and I looked like I was the emotional one in the family. Where the reality is we all had different ways of coping, but mine was that I would just stuff my feelings. And I really had to look at the fact of the actual stuffing of food was a way for me not to deal with feelings. So there are a lot of metaphors that really come with a lot of addictions, I think. And I remember in middle school, I started to really connect my body to these feelings of being lovable or not because I wanted a girlfriend. And I felt like all the kids that had girlfriends, this is middle school, so you're not really boyfriend or girlfriend, but I remember everyone who was in a relationship or was going out with somebody, to me, they were all thin. And I remember equating to, I can't have a girlfriend because I don't look a certain way. So during my freshman and sophomore year of high school, that's when I still was really starting to binge, but I was starting to become really, really unhappy. And around this time, between my sophomore and junior year, I started to go to a personal trainer from somebody that had recommended that I go. My parents were kind enough to support me in that because they didn't know how to help me. And here's the thing too, it's like no matter how much you try to help your child or your family member or someone you love, if they have an eating disorder or an addiction, there's only so much you can do to get them to stop doing what they're doing. Because a lot of what I was doing was in hiding and no one saw it. I started to go to a personal trainer and I was on a very specific rigid diet that was high protein and low carbohydrates. And I would have cereal for breakfast with honey. I would have a green pepper and a chicken breast for lunch and a salad for dinner with chicken. And then I would have two snacks of like half a chicken breast with bell peppers. It was really rigid. That's not even what the diet was. I took the diet and I made it much more rigid than what it really was because I started to see results and I started to see the weight coming off. And on top of going to the personal trainer, I would also take myself to the gym and work out for an hour every day while I was also in high school. And so I had the experience of coming back to my junior year of high school and I was very thin. I looked really good. And I had the experience of all the girls wanting to date me. And not all the girls, but I had the experience of like getting a lot of attention from girls, which is something I'd never had before. And so I got into a relationship with a girl who, an amazing person we dated basically through my whole, the rest of my time in high school. So I had a period where I was just really happy, where I felt like I could control the food. I wasn't compulsively eating. I was exercising a lot. I was doing okay in school. I had this pretty girlfriend. I was doing theater. And then there were some family issues that started to come up. Some stuff was going on with my little brother that was very difficult to deal with. My parents were having to put a lot of attention into my brother. I was now at the end of my junior year of high school, going into my senior year, having to start applying for colleges, not knowing where my future was going to be. And I had no tools to deal with this. I had no tools to deal with all the feelings that were coming up because my only coping mechanism had been food. And then I took that away, and now I'm exercising all the time and eating a rigid diet. And then I started to eat again. I actually had gotten a job at a bakery, which was like probably the worst place for me to work. But I needed a job. I needed to make money. And I slowly found myself starting to eat these foods that I hadn't allowed myself to eat in a long time. And then I would find myself going to the gym and sitting outside the gym with a loaf of bread from work. And I would literally eat the entire loaf of bread, and then I would go into the gym and I would try to work that whole loaf of bread off. And it's called excessive exercising. I view it as an exercise bulimia. There's traditional bulimia where you throw up your food. And then I found there is, for myself, especially with men, I think exercise bulimia is a very common thing where you go and you try to exercise the calories off excessively. And so I found my whole cycle of addiction just became so much worse because I just came off of this period where I didn't feel like I was actively compulsively eating. I was just so rigid with everything. So this what started around my senior year of high school of me exercising bulimia, where I would eat a lot and then I would try to go exercise it off. And then I felt like that wasn't working, and I would find myself eating a cookie and then spitting it out. So I would do the chewing and spitting thing where I would chew food and I would spit it out. And nobody knew that I was doing this. Nobody. And my parents never knew I was doing this. My girlfriend didn't know I was doing this. And I never thought I'd be one of those people that was like chewing and spitting food out. I didn't even know it was a thing. And so like that's what I did. And so already just by the time I was like 17, I had swung from so many different ways of this addiction. And my weight started to come back on, and so there reached a point between that summer before I went off to college where my high school girlfriend and I had broken up, and I just was binging, and I gained all of the weight back. And I remember going off to college just being so demoralized with myself, just so unhappy with myself. And when I should have been so excited to be going to college. So basically, there's a lot of my college years that I don't remember. I mean, I have a lot of really good memories, but there's a lot of it that I don't remember because I spent so much of my college years just binging. And I didn't think this was going to make me sad talking about this because it was so long ago, but sometimes when you do think about these things that you did to yourself for so long, and you think about, so literally like my 4 years of college just consisted of me literally waking up every day and saying, today I'm going to do it differently. Today I'll go to the gym. Today I won't eat a certain way. And then by like 11 o'clock, you had already like binged. So you're just like, well, tomorrow I'll do it. Tomorrow I'll do it. And so it just becomes this cycle of every day feeling so much shame and guilt and just beating yourself up because you feel like you just couldn't make yourself do what you were supposed to do for yourself. You know, I just remember calling myself like a fat all the time. I remember analyzing myself all the time. I remember going on medication for depression, and I think the medication even made me gain weight at the time because I started to see a therapist. And then my senior year of college, and I never dated through college. I was just consistently, compulsively eating and looking at porn. And I did start to date someone my senior year of college, between my junior and senior year of college, who I ended up being with her for like 8 years. That's a whole another story because we got married and divorced. But my senior year of college, I started to go to a personal trainer again. And this time, they put me on a very very high protein, low carb diet, like no carbs. So I felt like, oh well, as long as I don't eat carbs, then I'll be good. So I would find myself again, I went into the cycle and I started to lose the weight really fast again because now I was over 340 pounds. And I'll show you a picture of what I used to look like. And so here I was losing weight again, but I found that I could literally eat like a pound of bacon at night and still lose weight. So you can be on a diet and not be healthy. You can be on a diet and still completely be in your addiction. Because I found that there was a real high that would come with diets because it was like you could make yourself, you felt like you were so in control. I remember being over 300 pounds and I would go, we had a gym in our residence hall because I was an RA. And I remember going into that residence hall and I would, in that gym, and I would work out for like an hour by myself late at night. And even then I found myself starting to like chew and spit food out again. And it was that struggle with trying to control it again. I was trying to control it. And then the fear of what's going to happen after I graduate college, and you know, what's going to happen with me. And I found myself starting to binge again, even though I was trying to go to a personal trainer and do all this stuff. After college, I moved out to LA. I had gotten this really awesome opportunity for my school to help out with the LA internship program of other students. And so it gave me like 3 months to find housing. So here I am out in LA, over 300 pounds, and I'm applying for jobs. And I was trying to get a job in the entertainment business, and no one was going to want to hire someone who looked the way I did, or that's how I felt. And I was hitting bottom because my free housing was ending. All I was doing with the money that my parents gave me, or any money that I had saved, I was using it to binge. Here I was, my free housing is ending. I have a rental car, and I'm spending all that money on food. I even remember the day my friends left because they were going back to the East Coast. And here I was. I'd bought a one-way plane ticket out to LA. I had no money. I was morbidly obese. I was still looking for a job. And all I wanted to do was binge. So I feel like my bottom was very much like a drug addict, alcoholic bottom. Like I was almost homeless. So then I got a hotel room, hoping I'm looking for work. I'm going to find a way to live out here while I was binging. And I was just hitting a bottom. And I just wanted to die. And I remember going into the bathroom and just laying on the floor, because I reached a point in my life where like the food would not help me cope anymore. Like I would, no matter what I was binging or eating on, I still felt pain. It didn't allow me to push the feelings down anymore. Like that is what I can describe as a bottom, where it didn't matter what I did to anesthetize myself. No matter what, nothing would calm the fear, or the shame, or that dealing with the uncertainty of life. And I realized I reached such a bottom where I felt like I would rather cut my arm so that I could feel the physical pain of that rather than the pain that was going on inside my heart and inside my head. It was horrible. And it was around that time that I looked up compulsive eating recovery. I found a community of people who were dealing with the same things that I was, that I really started to recover with, who really showed me what it was like to live a different way. And they loved me unconditionally. And with a week of me getting into recovery from my eating disorder, I got a job at a talent agency and I found an apartment, and my life started to just turn around. And I started to lose the weight. My top weight was 340 pounds. And over the next 2 years of my recovery, I had lost over 160 pounds. I know sometimes in recovery, they don't like us to share numbers because it causes people to compare. But I think that what's also important, especially if you're morbidly obese, you might be at those high numbers and feel like it's not possible. And I think it's just as important to see that it's possible for other people so that you know that it can be possible for you. And I guess what I want to leave you guys with is one thing. I feel like any day I could turn back to the compulsive eating. I think that's the humility I have to have around my eating disorder. I look at it as a disease. It's a dis-ease in my thinking. It's an allergy that I have where when I start eating certain foods, I know I can't stop. And I have to be willing to abstain from certain foods because they just cause a craving in me that I can't control. Life is so good on the other side of it. Not because my life is perfect, because it's not. And there's so many things that I want in my life and so many things that I struggle with. But I get to be present for those things in my life. I get to feel those things deeply. And the thing about recovery is when you first start in recovery, it's really hard because you're learning how to do your life completely different. And it's really messy and it's painful. And there were days where I'm like, I just thought I was going to die because I didn't know how to cope or deal with feelings. And the longer that you're in recovery and the more you learn how to sit with yourself and to sit with your feelings, and the more you do the work on why you're compulsively eating and why you're doing these things, for me, there was this shift. And I started to realize what a gift it was to even have the bad days. And I started to realize what a gift it was to have feelings and to realize, oh, I feel good today or I feel bad today. And that there wasn't just one feeling that I was constantly trying to maintain every day of my life. I shared the specifics of my experience today with you because I would encourage you to look for the similarities, not the differences. What I believe we can all relate to is that experience of insanity, and that insanity of trying to do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And someone once said to me that it's not about doing everything different. Just do one thing different today than how you did it the day before. So that's my story of my life before I got into recovery from my eating disorder, which I don't share very much of. But I'm glad that I was able to finally share it with you all today. So if you all like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. And in the comments below, if you have any more questions that you'd like to ask me about my eating disorder recovery, I'd be happy to answer your questions. Maybe I'll do a special video if there's enough questions. Also, if you are looking to get into recovery, or if you are struggling, in the comments below, tell me what is one thing that you can do differently today than what you did the day before, because that's where all the changes start. And when we get really honest about what we're doing with the food or with people or with substances, that is when things start to change, when we start to get really honest. So thank you so much.